there's 9/11, and there's the greater reality that there's a consequence. There's a consequence that stems from apathy, from lack of action. When you're presented with information about what your government did, what our government was likely involved in, and other governments, for a lot of people, including myself, feel free to call in and share your 9/11 story or how you woke up to the truth about the New World Order. But for a lot of us, 9/11 is a spiritual time for many people on this planet, because it woke a lot of people up. There was another reality that was running concurrent to the reality that we thought was the ultimate reality. That we live in some form of democracy, that the United States and all their foreign interventions is somehow trying to do the right thing. A lot of people in this country had no knowledge of a military-industrial complex prior to 9/11. There was plenty of things going on before 9/11, whether we're talking about the JFK assassination, whether we're talking about the Northwoods document. Thank you. There's a lot of information out there. But when 9/11 happened, our world shifted real fast, because it became very clear that our government was not going to be spending its time hunting down solely Al-Qaeda or those they say are terrorists. Still today, there are people still in prison that have never been charged. They began to look at Americans. They began to look at Europeans. And here we are today in 2011, and they have conditioned many of our peers to walk through a body scanner. What we've seen unfold in this country is a reality that we, as far as we understand it today, with the history books that we have available, we're walking into a reality that we have never been in before. Now, we've been through, as a species, different forms of tyranny. Have they had this degree of technology? Have they had this much power globally before this point in time? These are very unique times to be alive. So for 9/11, that was the kickoff event to a lot of things. But for a lot of us in our own life, people in our own lives, decisions started we started making decisions, a lot of us on this planet that are alive today, a little bit differently, a little bit more selflessly. When you start to realize that you're in a world where those types of things are going on. 10 years later, 9/11 for me is something that's difficult on a personal note. Being someone that is a son of an Afghan man and a white woman growing up in a racist culture, 9/11, 10 years later, there's a lot of people out there that still don't understand my story and why I'm passionate about the things that I speak about. And so for a lot of us have had images like this dangled in front of us our entire lives, or because of images like this being dangled in front of your face, people like me have been looked at differently for a good 10 years in your country, despite the fallacy that this is not a racist state, that this is not a racist city, that this is not a racist country. We have had to hear this bull crap from our peers, that it's not really that bad, that Obama would not actually cover that up, that the Bush family would not actually be involved in something like this. Once you realize these things are happening in this culture, in this society, they have happened before and they are likely to happen again, you face yourself. You face yourself, and whether those trinkets, those baubles, those dollars you used to earn, those people you used to impress, your value system comes up for reevaluation if you have a heart and you have a conscience. And this is what the New World Order is frightened of, and why they're turning up the heat, because more people that are connected with their heart, more people that are connected with their intuition are waking up to what is actually taking place on Earth. And it is far larger than 9/11. As a person that identifies myself somewhat with my genealogy, with my background, connected to my dad's side, I still separate, though, from that identity. And I choose to look at the larger picture, that we are all one. There is only the perception of races, that we are here on earth to learn and evolve and do the right thing. And we have had this situation 10 years ago placed on our doorstep with a big lingering question: what are we going to do with this information that we've been given? Now, there's a lot of people grandstanding out there. Now that it's September 11th, 2011, doing a lot of, you've heard it here first, you've heard it here first on so-and-so Zero Radio. You're hearing lots of the stuff, and it's starting to sound a little bit like things you've heard in the past. Other people grandstanding so their name can be attached to the date in some way that they have special significance and perhaps copyright over 9/11 truth information that others don't have because they've got it all figured out. The problem many people have in this society that is so selfishly centered is our own ego, our own personal agendas to make it to the top in some sort of talk circuit field, talk circuit world. And so what we do when we're presenting information, what we should be doing, what I think is the morally right thing to do, is present information without trying to dominate the information and say that it's ours or have some sort of secret agenda to promote our own special interests. We have to look at the reality that because of what took place on 9/11, millions are dead in Iraq and Afghanistan and other countries. Many people have been taken to secret locations you know nothing about, we know nothing about. We cannot see their current condition and how healthy they are, whether they're tortured or not. We already see it. There's already factual evidence coming out about torture and people being forced to do the torturing that are in our military and what happens to them. See, all this stuff has been dropped on our doorstep. And now that we're 10 years later, and you're seeing a lot of the propaganda out there, and they're showing the towers again. They're talking about Flight 93. They're playing the tapes over and over and over. Yet at the same time, the responders are not invited to Ground Zero. The responders, the first responders, are not being, and many of them are now dead. Now, why did they not want to give them health coverage after all this went down? Oh, there's no coverage for cancer. But it gets even deeper than that. The residue, the explosive residue, some say thermal residue of some chemical compound was found in the lungs of the first responders. So you're talking about a whole number of reasons why perhaps they were not given health care, perhaps something that they might find in their lungs. And I think that it doesn't take a genius or a rocket scientist to figure out why the Murdoch Corporation would be tapping the phones of the 9/11 victims' families. We have people in our media, like Glenn Beck, saying a couple years ago, he hates the 9/11 victims' families. Why does he hate that particular group that was behind the movie 9/11 Press for Truth? If there's nothing there, if the conspiracy theory, as some would have you believe that it is, has no weight, has no pull, why can't we have an open discussion about September 11th, 2001 and what happened? As a person of Afghan descent, I have experienced great racism in this city and this state. I know when someone's in the paradigm, but I think what I want to say tonight is that people think of racism as being a conscious action, that you're consciously being racist when people are programmed in this society, and you've seen it enough on TV, and I don't even have to get into examples tonight, where people can be programmed to have racist beliefs that aren't perhaps their own thoughts. Like that article I wrote 6 years ago, Mass Mind Control Through Network TV. Are your thoughts your own? Go online and read this. Mass Mind Control Through Network TV. Are your thoughts your own? And we start studying and realizing how imagery can be used to control the actions of Homo sapiens, of humans. And you add in this ultimate weapon of mass deception, this television. You have a couple corporations control the information about what came out of the 9/11 Commission report. A couple corporations telling you the same tune, the same song and dance, you have people that are under mind control that are will be predisposed to have racist views towards others. Now, as a soul on this planet, working to evolve just like you, I understand, and we'll go to that phone call in a couple moments, maybe about a minute or two, that we have to go beyond fear. And I went beyond my own fears of the system after already being through the system, which I'll talk about briefly. In 1999-2000, I was making some serious mistakes in my life. I rose out of fear, out of the ashes of a bad situation I made for myself. And I saw to what I see now is the light, the true light that led me on a path that I'm on now, and I'm still continuing as a soul on this planet to go to the next level in my evolution. I'll talk about that tonight too. I'm leaving Portland for a number of weeks. So this is the last live show you're going to see from me for a while. I'm not going to Estacada, I'm leaving the state for a period of time. I rose out of my fear, okay, of what the system might do to me, knowing about the Patriot Act, okay, knowing about Big Brother. I knew what I was getting involved in when I signed up for this, and I did it without fear because I believed and still do believe in a divine creator that is waking people up across this planet to such an intense degree and level that it is terrifying the powers that be. That's why they're setting up this whole establishment, this whole control mechanism, everything that you know already. This is why they've created this. It's in anticipation. It's in anticipation of this next generation, this organic resistance that cannot be held down by standing armies. Because what happens when we start to influence those men with consciousness in those standing armies? Then they're scared because the emperor has no clothes. There will be nowhere to hide for them. They're worried about something also coming to this planet. We'll talk some more about that tonight. We've talked for the last couple of years about solar flares. In this last week, we've seen 2 X-class solar flares, and we've seen 2 large earthquakes on the west coast of the United States. That's right. That's right, up in Alaska, we had a big earthquake. We had a 6.4 touching the Cascadia subduction zone. Things on Earth are about to rock and roll. In fact, they already are. I came here in 2004, 2005 with the agenda of getting out the information about 9/11, which Bill does quite well every other week in the next studio over. But I'm seeing something larger. We have had 10 years. This has been a test. We have been tested in this country. We have information. We have the internet. We have a brain that God gave us. And it is our responsibility to activate our free will in the best way we see fit. And so when we turn away from this stuff, when we say it doesn't affect us, first they came for the Muslims, but I wasn't a Muslim, so I didn't say anything. They came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew. I wasn't alive in World War II. I wasn't in Nazi Germany, so I didn't say anything about the Jews being persecuted. Then they went after the right-wing extremists, and I'm not a right-wing extremist. Oh, so I didn't, or who they claim are right-wing extremists. I don't know if you heard there might be a terrorist attack on 9/11 this year. They say they're looking for white Al-Qaeda. They've been prepping this and prepping this and prepping this to get news reports about white Al-Qaeda. Nothing's happened. My friend Adam was scared the other day. He said, Alex, I've never seen propaganda like this. He is 10 years younger than I, at least. I think he's just leaving high school. He said, I think it was in his last year. I've never seen propaganda like this. I think something's going to happen. Well, it hasn't happened. And we have to be aware that as we